September 9th, 1976, the day that Mao Zedong died, a day of sadness and tears, but most importantly, a day signifying the major changes in China about to occur. With the death of Mao Zedong, a change in leadership needed to occur. In 1978, Deng Xiaoping rose to power but had a very different political view than Mao. As Deng Xiaoping said, no matter if it is a white cat or a black cat, as long as it can catch mice, it is a good cat. He pioneered socialism with Chinese characteristics and Chinese economic reform, which boosted the economy, opened China up to the rest of the world, and changed the lives of many. Because of these changes, many were able to immigrate to other places such as the USA. One such example of this is my mother, Jingrong Chen. Jingrong Chen was born in Ningbo, China, however moved to Hangzhou at the age of 3. In Hangzhou, she lived in a one-room apartment where she, her sister, and her parents all lived. She and her sister shared a twin-size bed while her parents slept in another twin-size bed. Their kitchen was set up in a hallway where they only had a small stove and a small area to work with. Each floor had a bathroom which all the residents shared, and when they needed to take a shower, they had to heat water themselves and use the bucket to reuse the water until they were done showering. When Jingrong was 7 years old, Deng Xiaoping had taken over China and made many reforms. One of these reforms was to send scholars to different Western countries to learn about their culture, ideas, and technology. The selection process for this program was to be a professor and to pass an English proficiency exam. Her father was one of these scholars that were chosen to visit and learn in America. He went to the University of Colorado in Denver and researched cryogenics for a couple of years. In America, he was paid an American salary, so when he came back to China in 1982 to share his learning, he was considered very rich. For example, when his boss in America came to visit him, he invited him to the most expensive restaurant in Hangzhou at the time, where they spent approximately 70 renminbi, which is equivalent to about $40. To put this into perspective, in America, he could earn this amount in a day or two, while his wife, Jingrong's mom, had to work as a doctor for a month and a half in order to earn the same amount of money. Seeing the wealth and opportunity and education that America could offer, he wanted his 2 daughters to go to America too. His stories and experiences in America would inspire Jingrong and her sister eventually go to America and get an education there. Fast forward a couple of years to when Jingrong is in her last year of college in 1995. During her time in college, she managed to get a full scholarship to Clarkson University's graduate school. She applied for an F1 visa for students and had made an appointment many months in advance for this interview process. Then the day before the interview, she traveled to Shanghai, which was the closest embassy to her, and had to stay at a friend's dorm to save money instead of a hotel. She walked the route from the dorm to the embassy, marking the route on a map to make sure she knew where she was going the day before. She got back, set an alarm for 6 in the morning, and went to bed. However, it was a sleepless night, with many tosses and turns, preparing for the interview in her head, trying to find the most optimal answer for each potential question. Then, before the sun rose over the horizon, she left the dorm and walked 30 minutes to the embassy in the chilling wind. When she arrived, there was already a long line of people also applying for a visa. The speculation was the earlier you arrived, the greater chance you had of getting in, since they could only accept a limited amount of people each day. People were very nervous, counting how many got accepted and how many spots were left, talking to each other for what they were applying for and why, etc. They were all planning for the interview, practicing everything they could, nervously waiting for their turns to come up. Jingrong was fairly confident she could get a visa because of her full scholarship, but there was always a tiny little voice in her head, questioning everything. Then finally, it was her turn. She walked into the office where she met her interviewer. He was behind a desk in a relatively small area, similar to those at an airport today where they check passports. He was very nice to her, asking questions such as why did she want to go to America, where she was studying, and what she was studying, and questions similar to those. He then saw her full scholarship to Clarkson, smiled, and then said, "You better bring a fur coat," and ended the interview there. She let out a sigh of relief as her muscles relaxed and the nerves calmed down. As she was leaving, before she could even step outside, she was bombarded by a crowd of people asking for advice and tips to help them get their visa. A few months later, she flew to America to attend Clarkson University. As soon as she landed, she found everything was new and different. ATM machines, credit cards, checks, cards, and even supermarkets. But most importantly were the human interactions and relationships, such as the relationship between professor and student and parent and child. At the start of the school year, the same year that Jingrong arrived in America, her professor was given 3 promotions and invited all his students to a fancy restaurant to celebrate. This was already a shock to her. In China, the students see the professor as in a higher position than they are, so would not question or challenge him, while in America they are almost seen as a peer. So, on the date of the party, she came to dinner and saw that one of the invitees was apologizing heavily for bringing her child because they could not find a babysitter, becoming another point of confusion. In China, the baby is given their entire attention, sacrificing these occasions just for the child, as he or she was seen as the most important thing in the world. While in America, babysitters are very commonly used to go on dates and special occasions. Despite all these challenges, she still loved America. America was able to offer more opportunities and give better living conditions at the time, but most importantly, she wanted to stay because she had started a family and wanted a better life for her kids. She married her husband in 1997 and moved to Huntington Beach in 1998. She would find a job as a software engineer at CG Tech in the year 2000, and she currently has 2 children and lives a good life in Newport Beach. I learned how different China was at the time 30 years ago than it is now. Before, China was very behind, but now it has caught up with the rest of the world and is doing very well for itself compared to before. I have a new understanding of my mother. I have a greater appreciation for all the effort it took for her to come to America and a better understanding of why she pushes me to so hard in school and other activities.